We sat to the office, but I'll be back here and then it was like, I thought tomorrow.
The reason we're all on good behavior is just entered the room, so.
Yeah, they're looking on health insurance.
That will be a much bigger thing.
Yep.
All right, call to order. Minutes, resolution 2524 to accept the minutes of March 5th, 2025.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Have to abstain.
One abstain. John was not here. Workshop, FY26 budget review, Exxon data storage for District Attorney's Office.
All right. So after the last meeting, there were a couple of items just to tidy up in regards to the budget. DA Maloney presented her district attorney's budget and had information about the data storage unit that they currently contract with for about $5,000 a year is overwhelmed. And they either are not going to renew that contract or the company will just create a huge surcharge. So she had been discussing utilizing Axon with their Justice Premier, which is their district attorney's arm of the Axon's system that we use for body cameras with the sheriff's office right now. So I had met with Kyle, the rep for Axon, and we talked about some things, and then DA Maloney and the sheriff and Chief Mitchell and Chris was there and a few others. We met with that's right, Deputy Joe Jackson, who kind of has led the rollout of the body cameras. And everybody was on board that this is the right direction to go. So it comes down to cost. So right now, if we paid for it each year over 5 years, it would be about $15,000 a year or $75,000 for the 5-year term. And that would have raised the DA's budget about $10,000 because right now we're paying about $5,000 for that same service. Patrick and I have looked at the current makeup of the DA's budget, and they're trending about $70,000 to $80,000 under budget right now because they've had some positions that haven't been filled, and they had a position that was filled for only 4 months, and now that position's open again. So, and some of their IT costs from the state are lower than they anticipated. So Patrick and I are confident that we can pay for 5 years of this service out of the current budget without adding anything to the district attorney's budget. So if the commissioners are in agreement with that, that is our recommendation. They have also given us a 10-year quote, which will essentially secure the funding so we'll know exactly what it is for 10 years. And so we're looking at both of those options. So I just wanted to know what the commission's thought was on that.
I have a question. Is there an added benefit to this in terms of paper reduction? I mean, where they've got it at the jail?
Right, manpower reduction is basically the savings here, because right now the body camera footage comes in, it's stored, and it has to be transferred over manually to the current data storage system. By having an Axon system, the body camera footage that's on the officer, in the vehicle, in the jail, is automatically uploaded to the cloud-based Axon without anybody doing that.
Is the obsolete hardware system Is that JustWare?
It's share file.
Share file.
And
So-
it's not geared for what we're using it for. And so that's the concern, is that they've already shut down Cumberland because they were overtaxing their servers.
I have some vague recollection of it, but is that the same as JustWare, or is that something totally
It's
different?
something completely different.
Okay.
JustWare is our case management system.
Right, okay, got it.
The share files is almost like a local repository, not an official repository.
But that's sort of the electronic discovery
Correct.
system.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So any thoughts on that?
Is there any advantage to paying the 5 years in advance?
There is some savings that we secured in doing that, so. The original quote that was given to Megan was 85,000, and we're doing it for 70,000 for the service and 5,000 for training, so it's a 75,000.
And we would see, like in their budget, then this tech service would, the line would be zero for the next 4 years. if we pay for it all.
So right now, it's covered under their technical services budget, which is 30,000. Most of their IT is supported by the state, not the county's IT. And so that budget would stay at 30,000. Without, if we went with share file, that budget would probably go to 40 or plus.
Right, but if if we're paying for it in advance, and they're paying 5,000 a year now, shouldn't it reduce that line by 5,000?
We're waiting on, what's the other program? E-prosecutor?
E-prosecutor.
We're waiting on e-prosecutor to kick in, and that's a state program that will eat up the rest of that 30,000. So that's why I
Okay, so it's just
recommend
gonna get
keeping that
shifted.
flat. That's right.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So are we good to go? Do you want a motion?
I think if you just put it all in your one motion that's on the resolution to move forward with the budget as proposed, this really doesn't change the nature of the DA's budget as it was presented. It's just a way of saving.
Yeah, very good. And then we've got the transfer of funds from dark fiber project.
So as we've discussed in the past, and we discussed at the budget meeting, that large amount of money that was raised several years ago, I think it was pre-COVID, for the dark fiber project to run physical lines, that project has been supplanted by a satellite-based project with significant savings. We've already moved some of that money into an account to help IT pay for server upgrades. In your packets, you see a list that Patrick provided of all the current balances of IT-related reserve accounts. And so at the end of the budget meeting last week, or last meeting, we had talked about taking about $157,000 out of that remaining money and using it to offset some of our current IT budget expenses so we can stair-step our way into some things. That leaves about $360,000 in that account. Patrick had initially recommended just to let that fall to general fund and be used as surplus to offset taxes in the future. Commissioner Cezak recommended to discuss whether or not we should leave that in an IT capital reserve account. So that's what's before you right now. Again, just some housekeeping on that.
Any discussion on that?
You mentioned that we don't really have any upcoming big capital expenses.
I talked with Pavel. Pavel, if you can just update the board, I mean, you anticipate a big $300,000 expense?
Not within like 5 years.
But in 5 years, we'll have a $300,000 expense, so there it is.
So we're gonna upgrade like the servers and by the end of like June, July. So that's a huge project, so that should last for like 5-6 years. So that's the major project, so within like next 5 years, I'm not expecting any like huge IT projects.
And that's why I was thinking that we should bank the money now, we've got it, and go with that.
So you will have a resolution later in the meeting. You may have a revelation. But you will have a resolution. And that resolution determines two things. One, you're authorizing using that $157,000 to offset the IT budget. And then you'll need to determine where to allocate that remaining $360. Do you want to leave it where it is? Do you want to just let it go to the general fund to offset taxes in the future? So that's your discussion point right now. So you will have a resolution to make a decision on that.
And the whole $300,000 doesn't necessarily have to go to IT or to general fund. That could be split or divvied up in certain, however you wanted to do it.
Right. So the part that impacts the budget is if you want to allocate the 157. What you do with the remaining 360, you can deal with it at any time.
Stupid question. Do we have any money in a capital fund for IT right now?
So in your packets, there's a list of all the
Oh, so
capital fund IT.
we're really just talking about keeping it in here?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, no one cares. Okay.
Well, they'll make a decision eventually.
They'll make a decision when we get to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's vote on it later.
We have resolution,
Yeah.
make the decision.
Well, I guess
They'll keep you in suspense.
we're just mowing. We can mow. Like a fine cider. Okay, and then, so while we're mulling on that, we can go to C, consolidation of HR budget to commissioner's budget.
Right, so if you remember at the last meeting, we had a discussion saying it would be probably prudent if we put administration kind of in one category under commissioners. So when Patrick put this together, this is a combination of the two budgets. You do end up saving a little bit. So now you've taken the $127,000 HR budget and folded it into the commissioner's budget, which is now approximately $436,000. You did end up consolidating some of our supply and cost accounts, legal cost, supply, and so forth. So in that consolidation, you ended up saving about $5,000 by combining these two departments into one budget category. Talking with Chairman Cezak before the meeting, though, he has some suggestions to this budget. So particularly under training and travel and so forth.
It's basically with the two issues. One is the NACO travel. The NACO travel that I expend is actually reimbursed to us from the MCCA. I was thinking that another commissioner or our administrator might like to go to the NACO conventions as well to learn some more stuff and get involved in NACO. And so the county would have to pay for that, so that would be extra money there. That's about $3,000 per person. And in this case, because it's one budget year and there's two conferences per year, it would be approximately $6,000 for one person if they were going to go to both. And quite frankly, I'd like to see Tim go to the next conference in Philadelphia, which is the general
Yeah,
conference.
that's in July, right?
It's in July, it's the middle of July.
July in Philadelphia, where else are you going to be?
What else do you want to know, huh?
So what are you suggesting, that we add to the budget $6,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to show you that if, at this point in time, our budget is, we say, is a negative $6,044 from last year. So it's not, we're not increasing the budget so much as we're keeping it on par of last year's budget. So there's no change in increasing of taxes. So that's all I'm suggesting. And if something happens that nobody goes, it stays in the budget anyway, so it just rolls over.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for the MCCA convention that will occur in the fall, that if commissioners want to go, we should have enough money for all the commissioners to go.
Where's that gonna be?
That's going to be no, it's going to be on the coast. It's
Sebago, Sebasco? Did I read that somewhere?
Sebago, yeah.
Yeah, Sebasco Resorts or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been there, Brokeback.
yeah,
Nice.
so. Tabasco.
Sebasco sauce they have. Very spicy.
So anyway, so we need that.
So if you were to do that, and you are following along with this little chart right here, later on, when you make a motion, you'll have to refer to this. This is the overall status of the budget as presented. And so the county commissioner's budget, which would be raised by $6,000, and that would affect the bottom line, raising that bottom line number of the proposed budget from $14,990,031 to $14,996,031, which would leave you with pretty much a break-even zero balance as far as the increase to the taxpayer. So once you get to that resolution, then this is the number that you'll probably ought to include in your motion. I also asked Patrick to provide this sheet here, which shows the breakdown of the municipalities and what their portion of the county budget would be. So you would think, in theory, that if there's no increase to the county budget, the towns would see no increase. And that's what they may be expecting. However, due to the drastic change in valuations, the deck has been reshuffled as to who pays what percentage of the county budget, because that's based on your individual town's valuation. So just a quick look around the room here. Skowhegan will save money. Their valuation did not go up greatly, and so they will pay $271,000 less in county taxes based on this budget. So if you're out around town, just kind of be able to say that. Don't go to Madison, however, because Madison's evaluation, which affects a few of us in this room, their valuation went up over $600 million. I've never seen it that high. So they will pay $112,000 more in county taxes this year. Emden will pay more, Bingham will pay more, but Fairfield will pay a little bit less. Even our friends in the unorganized territory are getting a break.
That's why they ran up to that county.
So, Tim, just a stupid question. We get new valuations for the towns every year?
The state provides that every year.
And how do they, how do they do
State
that?
valuation. Okay. Right, you ready?
Short version.
Short version. So for many, many years, when LD1 was a requirement, every town had to calculate what their increased valuation was. It was a pain in the butt. The legislature finally said, towns, you don't have to do it anymore. So good people like Patrick still knock on every town's door and say, hey, what's your LD1 calculation? Towns say, sorry, sucker, we don't have to do this anymore. So Patrick says, okay, we will use your state valuation, which comes out every year. The state valuation comes out from Maine revenue. They look back 2 years ago, and they determine what you reported as a town as your valuation, and then they see what your properties have been selling for. And if your properties are selling for about what you have them assessed for, they're like, great, we'll accept your number. But if your properties sell for much higher than what you have them assessed for, the county says, all right, we're automatically adjusting your number up based on your sales ratio. Towns that have ponds and lakes, Emden got crushed, Madison got crushed. A lot of these towns that their properties selling for over $1 million in our little county here. And so those valuations from the state say, look, what you have this assessed for and what people are paying for it is not even close. So we automatically raise your valuation.
But this has nothing to do with what we dealt with last year on the towns new appraisals that the towns do. That we were in court.
The only way that well, if you're talking about Palmyra, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Palmyra's valuation went up because they did a complete revaluation, which many towns have not dared.
Because the state made them do it because they were out of whack.
They needed to do it, whether the state makes them. The way the state makes them do it is they raise their own valuation and they lower what people get on veterans and homestead exemptions because they're not at 100% valuation. So, there's your assessing tutorial.
That's enough for
in
today.
60 seconds.
Okay, it's a grim science.
They're all now certified assessors.
So with that, unless there's any other questions, I look forward to your resolution. I do recommend that you take action on the budget today so that Patrick can start scheduling budget committee meetings in April.
Good. All set, moving on. Legislative policy update, LD 870, appointments to the Land Use Planning Commission.
So, as you're aware, Chairman Cezak is Vice President of the Maine County Commissioners Association. I'm on the county's Legislative Policy Committee and on the Jail Standards Committee. We get to see a lot of legislation. I brought these three before you just to have some talking points. 870 is an act changing the makeup of the Maine Land Use Planning Commission, which affects us and the other 7 counties that have UTs. Right now, every county that has a UT, there's 8 of us, that those commissioners appoint someone to the Land Use Planning Commission. Gwen Hilton is our appointee from Starks to that. And it's a 9-member board. The governor appoints the 9th person. For some reason, and there's speculation as to if this is just merely a political bill, but it has a lot of support from areas that don't have unorganized territories. So the proposal in this bill is to allow the governor to appoint 5 people instead of 1, making it a board of 13, and removing the residency requirements for those appointees. So the governor can appoint someone that doesn't live in that county or in that UT.
Massachusetts.
Well, I don't think they can appoint someone from Massachusetts, but I get where you're going with that. So if you define it as south of Augusta. So this has really brought a lot of the rural counties to Augusta as of tomorrow. Washington County will testify, we will testify, Penobscot, Aroostook, and so all of those of us that have significant UTs, and as you know from Dave's presentations, we have one of the largest and we have the highest UT budget, we have the highest UT valuation. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about this bill as far as state overreach. In front of you is testimony that Commissioner Cezak drew up, and there's also testimony that I created. I'll be testifying on behalf of the County Administrators Association. So there's quite a few people lined up to testify tomorrow. It should be interesting. Since we're testifying in opposition, we'll get to hear the supporters go first and maybe get an idea of why they think this is important. I've talked with the executive director of the LUPC, and she does not know why this bill is out there. They didn't ask for it. They don't have problems filling seats. So.
Do you know who the sponsors were?
Bill Riggio from Augusta, and Rick Bennett supported it. And other than that, they were all actually it's right in the front of the building. Yeah. Riggio, Pierce, Dill, Frost, Heller, Lee, Blucher, Bennett.
Oh,
So-
Fluker's on there, we're not managing things as well as they would for us.
Understood, and he's the junior chair of the committee of agriculture, so that's,
I know him well.
we'll have to, choose our words carefully. So that, if there's no objections, that's what we plan to do, is testify in opposition.
Well, I'm not objecting, but I just thought I would sort of clarify that the last time we were talking about taking a position on pending legislation in Augusta, I sort of was of the view that we shouldn't sort of opine on every possible bill just based on what we think, but I do think we ought to get involved on bills that have a direct impact on what we
Right.
do here. And
Right.
arguably, this is the case here, since this would dilute the, whatever you want to call it, impact that we have
Right.
on the LUPC if this legislation went through. So I think we should oppose it. And I'm sure you'll do a good job.
Agreed.
If you're ready to move on,
Well, before we move on, just to make sure that we do have the letter from the commissioners to sign to be presented
yeah,
in opposition.
yeah. So if everyone's in agreement with that.
This one.
Well, the signature page is up there at the front with your others.
It's right here,
With your
on
other
one
sig-
page.
with your other signature.
It was reformatted.
Yeah.
Quite skillfully.
Yeah, got it.
We had an interesting discussion about font size.
And favorite fonts,
We like the fine.
preferred fonts, as it were.
We get kind of dirty.
Yeah, so anyway, moving on to LD 894.
This one will fall into the category of Commissioner Alsop's, maybe we don't weigh in on it. It's a pet peeve of mine. This is an act to amend the paid family medical leave, but not in the way we want it to be amended. This is a bill that will give the Department of Labor teeth and oversight to fine, to take over to collections, any business that does not pay, and pay as fast as they want to. So I believe this is overreach, and I believe this is a way of stabilizing this program, because it doesn't talk about what happens if the costs go up. It just talks about the Department of Labor will get their money from you one way or another. So, on a side note, Patrick has been, a lot goes on in the basement that we don't appreciate in this building. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the basement down there between Dave and Tracy and Patrick.
All that stuff's legal now.
We'll let the sheriff know.
We're on TV.
So Patrick has gone back and forth in contact with a insurance company that provides an approved third-party paid family leave program. And if you follow the law, there are opportunities for a business that has the wherewithal to provide their own paid family medical leave. And therefore, they do not have to pay into the state's program. And Patrick and I looked at these numbers, they're quite favorable. And the first question was, is this company approved by the state? And they are. They're on the list that the Department of Labor provides, saying these are the people that we believe will offer a fair and equitable approach. There's an advantage to us signing up soon. Right now, we've paid, or we've set up about $30,000 to go to the state for this program. Our 5% and the employees' 5% together makes up about $10,000 a month. So it's about $125,000 a year that Somerset will pay in to the paid family leave medical program. This company has given us a quote somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 to $80,000. So there's a savings there. The big savings is, under the law, if you sign up for this program, you don't have to start paying for this until 2026. So we can stop paying the state right now and basically say, we're going to use this program. If the state checks the box and says, okay, then we will save those $10,000 a month payments until April of 2026. So there's some savings to the county that way, and we believe that we'll also be able to come back to you, the commissioners, to determine whether the county pays for all of this or we continue to do some sort of split between the county paying and the employees paying. It's not mandated in this program like it is at the state, so you have the choice as to how you want to do it. Essentially, I would recommend that employees still pay a part of it because it is an employee benefit to them. So I just bring that to your attention to let you know that Patrick and I have talked about it, we're working on it. And if you're interested, we will pursue it and maybe bring something back to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, can we do like a workshop?
Yeah, we put it on a workshop.
So in this particular situation, employees would see more money in their paycheck,
Yes.
And taxpayers would have less to foot the bill.
Yes.
No-brainer.
So, I know you guys already like Patrick, but this is another reason to like him. So that's all I wanted that's all I wanted to talk about on this particular bill. I believe that
Is there a letter or something? You're not suggesting any specific action?
on this particular bill,
Yeah, on the family LD 894.
so I believe that the Maine County Commissioners Association is going to oppose this
Okay.
bill, and we'll support it through the association.
Fine.
I just chose this opportunity to talk about what the county may do, and we'll,
Okay.
if it's okay with you, we'll workshop it at the next
Oh,
meeting.
most assuredly.
Okay.
That is excellent.
That's great.
Okay. And the last bill is 852, which is another bite of the apple at jail funding. This is the bill that goes before criminal justice to talk about the inequities in jail funding. And it is supported by the Sheriff's Association, MCCA, the Maine Municipal Association, and there's a plethora of people lined up to testify, including myself, on this one. We don't have a public hearing on it yet, but it will come. So here's the reality, though. As great as this bill might be, if you're aware, it appears that the legislature is heading towards a basic budget, which means by partisan vote, they will pass the bare bones of the next budget. They'll roll in the Medicaid payment of $188 million, and so they will probably do all that before the end of March. They won't have a 2/3 majority, so it will go into effect. The governor will probably close the session at the end of March, making that automatically go into effect for July 1st. If that happens, we don't get any more jail funding. Our jail funding stays static at $20 million. The governor did put an initiative to raise it $4 million. Some of our Democratic friends at the Criminal Justice Committee added to that to get it up to $7 million. So that additional $7 million of jail funding for the whole state is in limbo right now, as they will probably pass by a partisan vote the first half of the budget in the next week or two. So I just want to give you an update on what the status of jail funding. I'm sure the sheriff can chime in if there's anything else to add.
It's quite the mess.
Any comments or considerations on LD 852?
We don't have any testimony created yet, so and again, this is something we'll support through the Maine County Commissioners Association, Sheriff's Association, so there'll be plenty of testimony to come.
Public hearings, no public hearings, public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. Anybody in the public, from the public in the audience to speak? See none. New agenda items, commissioners only. See none. Administrator report.
So in addition to my submitted report, just a couple of things. On your desks are 2 letters to the Land for Maine Futures program. I'm approached quite often to create letters of support from the county. These are 2 programs that are seeking to conserve land. The first one is the IF&W, the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. They're looking to acquire 400 acres, most of it in Addian Township, a little bit in the town of Jackman. They're looking to acquire that essentially to protect the deer habitat up there. They're buying it from Carrier. I had Dave kind of work up a rough estimate. Because it's all in tree growth, this has an impact of about $500 in property taxes. So that's the Inland Fisheries one up in Jackman. The other letter is for Somerset Woods trustees, and they're looking to acquire 2 properties, one in Madison and one in New Portland. The property in Madison is about 130 acres on 201, and then it goes all the way to the lake. Currently, it's undeveloped. There's no property on it right now because it's mostly a wetland and a hunting area. So it's mostly in tree growth. I know they just had it harvested back when I was town manager, so it's only been 2 or 3 years. The tax impact on that is about $1,000. I was told by Jennifer with Somerset Woods trustees that they probably will continue paying taxes on both this property and the one in New Portland. The New Portland property is about a $500 tax bill. So not taking significant amounts off the tax rolls. I've learned to ask that question ahead of time, and just to make sure that you are that you are okay with this. I mean, if you want me to bring every request I get for Land for Maine Futures to you for an approval, that's fine. But in my experience over the last couple of months, I just told the people when they asked, I said, I'll write a letter. If the commissioners are okay with it, I'll send it. So, what are your thoughts on these?
I'm good.
I like the process that you're using.
Okay.
You already know what my questions are gonna be, so. Yeah.
It's like
If it doesn't come from that side, it'll come from this side. So.
Well, and one of the, obviously, my question was gonna be, Somerset Woods gonna pay in lieu of taxes for one. The other one is access. Of course, I was all this time looking at their website and finding their access rules and things like that, and they're slightly restrictive in my mind anyway, but I do know that, probably most of the people
They've
are
changed in the
support
last
these
2
things.
years.
What's that?
I said they've changed their rules in the last 2 years.
I'm actually involved in that organization, and
Yeah, that's what worries me.
yeah, well, that should worry you, but the recent acquisitions in Madison and Solon, those properties had no access for years until they were acquired by Somerset Woods trustees, so it's pretty much a positive gain, even though there are some restrictions on it. Because there was no hunting on any of that stuff for decades.
Right. And they do allow, and I guess one of the questions that I would ask regularly is because, looking at some of the properties, they do have some properties that hunting access is completely off the books. And it probably has to do with, who gave them the land.
That's exactly, you're right.
Which is, perfectly legitimate, but,
So
so that sort of thing would be interesting to know if they're gonna just go with their general rules, or if there's gonna be specific rules.
Yeah. And they usually provide that information up front. The property in Madison especially will be open for hunting, snowshoeing, recreation, that sort of thing. So. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is, to date, I've received 4 abatement applications from Palmyra, and these are all properties that are within the same neighborhood as Craig. And so we're still waiting to hear what Superior Court will do with Palmyra's appeal of your decision to give an abatement in that case last year. So the 4 property owners, I've notified them, I let them know that they've met the statutory guidelines of getting this information to us. However, as a commission, you won't act on them until we hear back from the state, and to see if Palmyra will file an appeal if it doesn't come back in their favor. So everybody's kind of in limbo, but those are the only abatement appeals that I've received. They all have to do with that same parcel of land on White's Pond. So.
Okay.
And now we're moving on to the finance reporting.
No major changes, all the departments are still trending towards the positive end of the year. Looks like about 650,000 favorable for the general fund, about 1.3 million for the jail, but we allocated 1.6, 1.7, so we still have to utilize some undesignated fund balance to make that come in to balance. And we currently only have 4 openings, so the actual getting the positions filled. No major concerns on the finance area. Any questions?
Don't see any. Thank you. David?
I'm gonna count my chickens, even though I was told not to. We received a letter from NEMA about our FEMA application to reimburse from the storm damage in May of '23, I believe it was. And we should be receiving a check, $25,000, $858, probably next week is estimated time. So, all the hours and hours of work and work on the gravel pit helped. So we should see our first check from them next week.
Good.
Good work.
Any reflections on LD 870?
I personally, I'd be curious to know why the governor or someone came up with the idea of adding more positions on the board. I would like to know their reasoning, because it's not logical to me to try to take control away from people that either live in UT, represent UTs, are familiar with UTs, and you could have people from, Old Orchard Beach, that's never been, above Portland, having a weigh in on what happens in the North Woods. Right now, I'm against it. I don't know what their reasoning is to think this is a good idea. I'd be willing to listen to it, but I'm come down, as Tim has and everybody else, pretty much that deal with UTs, that question this entire bill.
Questions? Thank you. Sheriff?
Busy, since the last time we met, we've had patrol respond to a homicide, what turns out to be a homicide in Norridge and a homicide in Elmira. Last week we executed a substantial drug bust in the town of Madison, dealing with fentanyl dealers.
Questions? Comments?
I was curious about the federal inmate population these days. Are we getting a lot of ICE for those? I mean, I read about in the papers all this sort of stuff going on. I was wondering whether that had any impact on the jail at all.
Border Patrol is bringing those individuals to our jail.
Well, how long do they stay there?
They don't stay there very long. They usually end up being there about 72 hours at the most, and then they transfer them to another ICE facility.
Now, is that part of our deal with the U.S. Marshals, or is that something else?
So we do have a federal contract that will board pretrial federal inmates, and so we are compensated at that rate.
But are these pretrial federal inmates? These ICE detainees, non-criminal? I just didn't know.
I guess that's up into interpretation. I think the feds think believe that they're illegal.
I'm not saying they're not illegal, I'm just saying they don't have like a pending, or maybe they do have a pending.
So I don't know, I don't know if there's going to be cases made against them or not. They're holding them at our facility for a short period of time before they transfer them to an ICE facility.
We get paid the same rate as we would federal.
That was my question, is if we get paid the same rate, and there's a standard in the state that says if a law enforcement brings somebody to you that they have arrested, that we can't turn them away, we have to board them, so.
Okay, just curious.
One of the things that came out at the NACO conference was that there's a potential of being sued. The county in New York State was sued and had to pay $60 million for ICE detainees.
Let me just clarify, Commissioner, that was a class action suit that has not been settled. That was a class action suit that was brought. So they didn't have to pay $60 million. That was the suit. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, because I read that article when you shared it.
Yeah, I shared the article, and but that was something that they had brought up, to be
Right.
careful.
60 million makes the headlines, nothing against reporters.
No, yeah.
But I read that too, and it sounded like that was a situation where state or county officials were making arrests of illegal illegals, and there wasn't any state authority for them to do that, so they were kind of
That's different.
acting outside their authority when they did that. That's a cause for complaint, I guess.
There are a lot of lawsuits going around. I think Cumberland County dealt with this a while ago on the detainer, and it has some resolution, it had came to some resolution that I think the sheriff in Cumberland is taking people that ICE is bringing in, they're holding them until they get enough to transport someplace else.
Yeah, I understand that Hancock had some issues too.
Right, I think in this political environment, there are certain groups that are being very aggressive with their lawsuits. Now, we don't know what level, how they will play out, but they're being very active.
Yeah, I'm just watching out for you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And I know you handle things well, so
Thank you.
I wasn't too worried, but I just wanted to get your take on it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for the sheriff? Mike?
Just a couple of projects that we're working on. We're working on some public alert and notification warnings through MEMA, using iPaws, which we had in past years at the county level, but we took it out of the budget a few years ago due to the cost of it. MEMA has allowed counties to now sign on, so we're kind of jumping through the hoops with FEMA to get that process done again, so we can send out public alerts and warnings via cell phone. We also have been working on some sheltering projects. We've done a shelter review with Skowhegan at the community center. We've done a shelter review with Smithfield at their town office for their facility out there. Just kind of looking, we have one next week in Fairfield, just kind of looking to pre-position cots and blankets, at least those supplies in certain areas, so that they have them should they need them for anything.
Is that with the Grange in Fairfield, or is that
No,
with?
it's going to be at the community center.
At the community?
Yeah, because I believe they have a generator coming, or they at least have a grant application in for a generator for that facility, so.
And they also have showers.
Correct. Yeah, and it's one level, we don't have to worry about stairs, it's just a whole host of issues that are better there than the range, so.
Yeah.
And we've started some conversations with Representative Katie Cog about some resiliency programs and presenting those out to the towns. They just got approved for a grant to work with us in Kennebec County on some resiliency projects, and we actually have 3 of the 4 towns, it's Norwich, Madison, and Solon, who have been identified in that grant, so we're working with them as well. I just want to touch base with you too on, Patrick's well aware that we have about $130,000 in outstanding grant reimbursements right now. I have stopped spending Homeland Security money. I'm not doing anything more with the projects that are currently approved until money is released and they figured out the process that they're going to use at the federal level to scrub reimbursements. We were told today by the director at MEMA that the proposal is to put eyes on every request that the state sends into them. However, with reduced staff and adding to the process, none of us are sure when we're going to be seeing Homeland Security money or EMPG grant money or hazard mitigation money in reimbursement form again. We're waiting on all 3. So I just wanted to make everybody understand that we're well on top of it, but until something happens at the federal level as to how they're going to process that, we have no control over it. So, and just as a last piece, last night the president signed an executive order to shift emergency preparedness from FEMA to the state and local level. And nobody really is sure yet what that's going to look like, what the funding potentials of that might be, or anything else. So it was kind of, I can send you the article if you want it. The NEMA director was supposed to send us the entire executive order, but it basically is looking to shift everything, whatever you think of FEMA, but from FEMA to the state and county municipal level.
Does that mean when he shifts it, he's just gonna stop paying and they're gonna have to come up with the money? Is that the idea?
You can interpret it any way, Commissioner. There was nothing specific in there as to how that funding mechanism was going to happen. And we've done we had 3 disasters in this county, and I don't have an exact number on the public assistance that was given. I do know of one town in one of the storms that was waiting a couple of months ago on almost $900,000 to come back to the town from a public assistance request that went in. So, and the individual assistance request was well over $1 million, or the grant was well over $1 million back to the taxpayers. So we're talking a significant amount of money just in Somerset County. And, we didn't have anywhere near some of the larger issues that Franklin and Oxford had during those, and then the coastal communities during the other storms, so.
Well, if I put the two things you've told us together, it sounds like, one, the federal government is not going to pay on those grants. 2, the federal government is not going to provide any FEMA relief in the future, and it's going to give it to state and local government to deal with. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that there's a strong possibility of that. I can't honestly tell you that that's the way it's presented at this point. It's shifting the responsibility, and I guess it's a matter of what's the responsibility and where is that funding coming from. Will the feds continue to, with some mechanism, fund the state level, and then the state will figure out how they're going to fund the locals, or I don't know yet how it's going to work.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. So, it's kind of up in the air. I just kind of wanted you to be aware that those were the discussions that were happening, and it's around the fact that by this time of year, we've usually seen the notice of funding opportunities for at least the Homeland Security grant, and there's been not even a mention of that coming out. I know by mid-April last year, we already had our award numbers, and we were working on our applications to get it in. I don't foresee that happening this year, and I think looking at Homeland Security and whether those grants come out in the time frame they come out is just kind of a precursor to what we'll look at the end of the summer as to how, the EMPG funding is going to go. So stand by, I guess, at this point.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Dossey?
Afternoon. District Attorney's Office is kind of status quo right now. We're in a trial month for March. We've got a few trials that are set and will be seen at the end of the month. We do have a new face in the building as well. We did shift, the state shifted ADA John Provisor here to take ADA Bree White's place. They just kind of switched places here. But John comes to us with a law enforcement background. He was Augusta PD for quite a while. I don't have an exact how many years he was there, but so he has a unique kind of a take on how to prosecute, and is very good. And so we're very happy to have him in the office. That we're down one person, which will be sort of a resolution later on, and we already have some pretty decent applicants for that. So.
Val?
I would like to mention a few projects that we're working on. So we're working on like new UPS, battery backup for the courthouse. And we continue working on the intercom project for the jail. Also, there's we're gonna replace all the workstations for dispatchers. And also October of this year, that's the end of life for Windows 10. So we'll have to upgrade, replace all the computers to Windows 11.
Any questions? Thank you. All right. Have I missed anybody?
Let me just add something to Mike's report I learned at KBCOG yesterday. So when the federal government passed their continuing resolution to fund the budget, they took out all of the congressional direct spending that was applied for from every state. So this is the CDS money. This is how towns have rebuilt fire departments and so forth. So there are many towns that have started projects in the anticipation that this money will come, and now that money's not going to come. I believe the sheriff did a small $250,000 grant for some gear through the Senator Collins' office for congressionally direct spending. That's all. So you'll have to wait until if the current administration wants to continue that program.
If I know that, Chuck Mahales from the office called me today because we had a grant going for a new fire department in St. Albans. They've encouraged us to reapply. for 2026. So
Yeah, I met with Chuck.
there's a chance that Congress is not going to approve that program to continue, but they said to reapply anyway.
It's good, yeah, I talked to Chuck before last, I talked to Chuck Knight before last too, so it's good. He'd mentioned your program.
All set? No questions? All set? Thank you. No unfinished business, new business. Resolution 2546 to accept the FY Somerset County budget as presented and forward to the county budget committee for review in the amount of $14,996,031.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? So, Resolution 2547 to approve the updates to the Somerset County Emergency Action Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2548 to approve the hiring of Nicholas Miska, Ashton Clow, Alexis Wilson, Jahail Campbell as corrections officers for the Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2549 to approve the hiring of Brandon Stevens for the Somerset IT Department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2550 to approve the hiring of Victoria Eck as clerk for the Somerset County Register of Deeds.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Resolution 2551 to approve the hiring of,
Need to call for a vote on,
Yeah, we vote on that.
You didn't call
Yeah, call
for
for
it previously.
on ag. You didn't call for a vote on ag.
I didn't say all in favor?
No.
All in favor?
Get it done.
I'm just going too fast for my.
Check all the boxes, yeah.
I know, thank you. See, that's why we've got 5 of us here. Can't do it by myself. Resolution 2551 to approve the hiring of Ronnie Blodgett as Detective Sergeant for the Somerset Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Isn't he already working there? What?
Well, he is a detective with the sheriff's office. He is presently assigned to the DA's office.
So how does this change things?
There's an operational plan that will be moving forward.
So what does the DA's office do? I mean, it's not, we can talk it over later if you want. I'm just so curious.
I'll fill you in later.
Okay, fill me in later, that's good. Okay, fine.
All in favor?
Detective Sergeant Blodgett is here today. And I don't have that concern either.
Oh, hi.
Welcome, thank you. Resolution 2552 to pay the following awards for community benefit funds for completion of matching grant projects. Kennebec Behavioral Health ADA Accessibility, $12,500. Town of Mercer Heating System Upgrades, $6,594.50.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Capital Reserve Expenditures, Resolution 2553 to authorize the transfer of funds from account G12-4039-04, Dark Fiber Project, to offset proposed IT budget costs.
So moved.
And in this, there's also what we want to do with the remaining $300,000.
So if you take no action on that latter part, it'll just stay in reserve for IT. If you wanted to move it, then you'd have to add to this motion with the balance to go to the general fund.
Seeing no additions, I'll ask for a vote.
Anybody second that?
I'll second.
I think John did, yeah.
I'll second it today.
All in favor?
Okay.
Warrants, Resolution 2554 to approve the treasurer's warrant for the general fund, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territories, and TIF community benefit. of a total of $380,093.20.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only? All good. Executive session to discuss a personal issue pursuant to MRS Section 4056A, Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll be going into executive session in 3 minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes.